You think you need a tactical tomahawk? A maul ninja katana? Some overpriced zombie-killing multi-tool that costs $300 and breaks on the second skull? Here's the thing, you're shopping in the wrong aisle. While everyone's panic buying tactical garbage that'll fail you in the first 10 minutes, there's an entire category of tools designed to bend, break, and reshape solid steel that will absolutely devastate undead bone structure without even trying. The average zombie skull has roughly the same compressive strength as a coconut. You know what metalworking tools are designed to do? Shape anvils, forge steel, break through materials that laugh at your skull's structural integrity. You're bringing a weapon designed for flesh to a fight that requires something built to dominate metal. That's not a fair fight. That's not even close. Here's what separates the survivor with a 70-pound post-maul from the corpse with a tactical folder. Understanding that durability beats speed, weight beats finesse, and a tool designed for 10,000 impacts will outlast your zombie-killing fantasy by about 10,000 zombies. If you found this channel because you're done with fantasy and ready for function, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're building a community that understands the difference between looking cool and staying alive. Let's be real for a minute. When civilization collapses and you're standing in your garage looking at your options, you're not reaching for your decorative weapons. You're reaching for the tools that have survived decades of actual use. The ones with tape on the handles and rust in the crevices. The ones your grandfather used. Those are your survival tools. Metalworking tools have 3 advantages that make them absolutely dominant in undead scenarios. First, they're designed for repetitive, high-impact use. A framing hammer drives nails all day. A sledgehammer breaks concrete for hours. These tools don't fatigue, they don't chip, they don't fold. Second, weight distribution. Every ounce is engineered for maximum kinetic transfer. When you swing a 10-pound maul, physics does the killing. You're just the guidance system. Third, they're invisible. Nobody loots sledgehammers. Nobody hoards pry bars. While people are murdering each other over gun stores and sporting goods, metalworking tools sit untouched in every garage, hardware store, and industrial site. Here's your lineup. 5 tools that will outlast, outperform, and outsurvive every tactical piece of shit marketed to preppers. Tool number 1, the post-maul. This is 16 pounds of concentrated fuck you on a 36-inch hickory handle. It's designed to drive fence posts through frozen ground and split oak grounds that would laugh at your axe. The head is solid forged steel with a face diameter bigger than a zombie's temple-to-temple measurement. You know what that means? You don't need precision, you need proximity. The genius of the post-maul is the weight-to-handle ratio. That long handle creates leverage that turns a casual swing into a skull-crushing impact that would make a medieval warhammer jealous. You're not muscling through the strike. You're guiding a pendulum with terminal velocity. The maul does the work. You just aim. Here's what most people don't realize. The back of a post-maul head is wedge-shaped specifically for splitting. That means when you connect with a skull, you're not just crushing. You're splitting the structure open from impact point to brainstem. It's the difference between denting a car door and splitting firewood. One requires multiple hits. The other is catastrophically effective on contact. The reach is critical. 36 inches of handle plus your arm length puts you at almost 6 feet of total range. That's outside bite distance. That's outside grab distance. That's far enough that you're swinging before they're threatening. And because the maul weighs 16 pounds, you're not doing rapid strikes. You're doing calculated devastation. One swing, one target. Move to the next threat. The post-maul has one weakness: speed. If you're surrounded, if you're in tight quarters, if you're trying to fight multiple threats simultaneously, that 16 pounds becomes a liability. The swing commitment is total. You can't change direction mid-arc. You can't abort. Once you commit to the strike, you're locked in for the full follow-through. That means you need to choose your shots, you need spacing, you need to think 2 moves ahead, but in open ground. In a parking lot, a field, a wide hallway. The post-maul is a zombie-ending machine that requires 0 maintenance, never runs out of ammunition, and will outlast you by 50 years. You can swing it 500 times, and the only thing that changes is your shoulders hurt. The tool doesn't care. Tool number 2, the digging bar. 6 feet of solid hexagonal steel weighing 22 pounds. It's designed to break up concrete, bust through frozen soil, and pry apart rock formations. One end is a chisel point. The other is a blunt tamper. Both ends will absolutely ruin a zombie's structural integrity without breaking a sweat. The beauty of the digging bar is versatility. That chisel point. It's a penetrating weapon with reach that lets you puncture skulls from outside bite range. The impact required is minimal. You're not swinging for power. You're dropping 6 feet of steel like a spear and letting gravity handle the penetration. The blunt end? That's for bashing when you need crowd control. That's for shattering knee joints when you need to slow advancement without killing. Here's the tactical advantage nobody talks about. The digging bar is a force multiplier for obstacles. You can pry open doors. You can lever aside debris. You can create gaps in chain link fences. You can bust door hinges. Every scenario where you're trapped or blocked, the digging bar is your exit strategy. It's a weapon and a breaching tool and a defensive barricade component all in one package. The hexagonal cross-section means it doesn't roll. You drop it, it stays put. You set it down, it doesn't betray you by rolling under a car. That sounds minor until you're in a fight and you drop your weapon and it disappears into a storm drain. The digging bar sits where you put it. It waits. It doesn't have opinions. The weight is the challenge. 22 pounds is manageable for swinging. It's exhausting for carrying. After an hour of movement, that steel bar becomes a burden. After 4 hours, it's torture. You need to factor the weight into your mobility planning. This isn't a weapon you carry on a supply run. This is a weapon you stage at defensive positions. This is what you keep by the door, by the stairwell, at the choke point. But when you need to bust through a door, punch through a skull, or create an emergency exit through a wall, nothing in your garage matches the digging bar for pure destructive utility. Tool number 3, the railroad pick. This is where we get specific. A railroad pick is a specialized tool designed to drive and pull railroad spikes through solid oak ties. It's got a pick on one end and a chisel blade on the other, connected by a 30-inch handle with a head that weighs about 7 pounds. It's designed for precision demolition. The pick end is a penetrating weapon with a curve that hooks on contact. When you drive that point through a skull, it doesn't just penetrate, it catches, it locks. When you pull, you're not just withdrawing the weapon, you're extracting the target's structural integrity. You're pulling brain matter with bone fragments. It's absolutely vicious and completely unintentional. The tool was designed to grab and pull spikes. It just happens to be devastatingly effective on cranial anatomy. The chisel blade on the reverse is your crowd control option. It's wider than the pick, flatter, designed for prying and striking. When you're facing multiple threats and penetration is too slow, you flip your grip and start swinging the blade like a hatchet. The impact surface is broad enough to crush without needing precision. You're batting skulls, not penetrating them. Different scenario, different tool face, same weapon. Here's what separates the railroad pick from lighter tools. That 7-pound head is heavy enough to generate killing force without requiring a full power swing. A quick snap of the wrist creates enough momentum to fracture bone. You're not winding up. You're not telegraphing. You're delivering rapid, controlled strikes that accumulate damage faster than a lighter tool while staying inside your defensive envelope. The length is perfect for vehicle defense. 30 inches fits inside a car. It doesn't extend past your shoulder in tight spaces. It's short enough for hallways and long enough for reach advantage. It's the Goldilocks weapon for confined tactical scenarios. The weakness is durability against armor. If you're facing a zombie with a motorcycle helmet, thick winter coat, or any kind of protective layer, that pick point can deflect or stick without penetrating. You need exposed skull. You need clean angles. Improvised armor completely changes the equation, and suddenly your perfect precision weapon becomes a liability. But for standard zombie encounters where exposed flesh is the norm, the railroad pick is a scalpel, where the post maul is a hammer. Different tools, different purposes, both lethal. Tool number 4, the splitting maul. 8 pounds of wedge-shaped aggression on a 30-inch handle. It's designed to split hardwood rounds that would destroy a regular axe. The head is thick, the edge is deliberately dull, and the entire geometry is engineered to force apart fibers that don't want to separate. That same geometry absolutely destroys bone structure. The splitting maul's advantage is the wedge profile. When you strike a skull, you're not just impacting, you're forcing the structure apart from the inside. The thick head pushes bone fragments outward in every direction, creating catastrophic structural failure that goes way beyond the impact point. A sledgehammer crushes. A splitting maul explodes. The handle length gives you two-handed control with leverage for precision. You're not just swinging, you're placing strikes with accuracy that lets you target specific threat points. Temple shots, crown strikes. Neck severances when decapitation is the tactical choice. The maul head is heavy enough to follow through on partial contact, meaning glancing blows still deliver enough force to stagger and disrupt. Here's the scenario advantage. The splitting maul is socially invisible. It looks like a firewood tool. It is a firewood tool. Nobody questions why you have it. Nobody loots it during initial panic. While people are fighting over guns and knives, the splitting maul sits in your garage completely ignored until you need it. Then it's a weapon that never runs dry, never jams, and never needs cleaning. The challenge is the same as the post-maul. Swing commitment. 8 pounds is lighter than 16, but it's still enough mass that you can't change direction once you commit. You're locked into the arc. If the threat moves, if you misjudge distance, if a second threat appears mid-swing, you're vulnerable for the half second it takes to recover. In a scenario with fast movers and multiple angles, that vulnerability is where you die. But in defensive scenarios where you control the approach angle, where you're defending a doorway or a stairwell, the splitting maul is a perfect tool for delivering controlled devastation to threats that have to come through your kill zone in predictable patterns. Tool number 5, the pry bar. 36 inches of spring steel with a curved claw on one end and a chisel point on the other, weighing about 10 pounds. It's designed to demolish framing, pull nails through studs and tear apart structures that were meant to last a century. It's also a weapon that combines reach, leverage, and versatility in a package that weighs less than a post-maul while delivering comparable destruction. The curved claw is a hooking weapon. You don't need to penetrate cleanly. You don't need precision strikes. You swing, you catch the claw on any part of the skull, and you pull. The leverage of that 36-inch handle means you're applying force that a zombie's neck muscles can't resist. You're not just striking, you're controlling. You're redirecting threat vectors by yanking their heads off their intended path. The chisel point is your penetrating option. It's narrower than a digging bar, sharper than a sledgehammer, and when you drive it through a temple or eye socket, you're delivering trauma directly to the brain with minimal resistance. The spring steel flexes slightly on impact, absorbing shock that would shatter a rigid tool. That flex means durability. That flex means the pry bar doesn't break. Here's what makes the pry bar exceptional. It's a universal breach tool. Locked door? Pry the frame. Barricaded window? Lever the boards. Jammed gate? Force the latch. Every obstacle between you and safety has a weak point that the pry bar can exploit. You're never trapped. You're never contained. As long as you have the pry bar, you have options. The weight-to-length ratio is ideal for extended carry. 10 pounds across 36 inches means you can sling it across your back, hang it from a belt loop, or carry it one-handed for hours without significant fatigue. It's light enough to run with and heavy enough to kill with. That balance is rare. The weakness is the spring steel composition. It's tough, it's flexible, but it's not forged solid like a maul head. If you strike something harder than bone, if you hit rebar or concrete or steel framing at full force, that chisel point can chip, that claw can bend. The tool isn't indestructible, it's just highly durable. There's a difference. You need to know your target. You need to avoid blind swings into unknown materials. But for zombie work where the targets are predictable and the materials are biological, the pry bar is maybe the most versatile weapon in the metalworking arsenal. It kills, it breaches, it controls, it travels light, it asks for very little and delivers everything. Now let's talk about the mistakes that get you killed even when you're carrying the right tools. Mistake number 1, swinging for style instead of structure. You've seen the movies, you know the move. Big wind-up, overhead arc, dramatic follow-through that looks amazing on camera and gets you bitten in reality. Here's the thing about metalworking tools. They're designed for controlled impacts with predictable targets. Railroad ties don't lunge, concrete doesn't grab. When you swing a splitting maul like you're trying to ring the bell at a carnival, you're creating vulnerabilities that a moving target will exploit. The fix is boring, methodical, and effective. Keep your swings compact. Keep your recovery fast. Every strike should flow into defensive position in under a second. You're not performing. You're eliminating threats with minimum exposure. The maul will crush a skull just fine with a controlled swing that doesn't leave you extended and vulnerable. Mistake number 2. Choosing weight over mobility. That post maul is a beautiful weapon. It's also 16 pounds of commitment that you'll regret carrying after the first mile. You know what happens when you're exhausted and you drop your weapon to rest? That's when threats appear. That's when your perfect tool becomes a liability sitting 20 feet away, while something that used to be your neighbor is closing distance. The fix is understanding context. Defensive positions get the heavy tools. Mobile scenarios get the lighter ones. A pry bar at your side beats a post maul in your garage every single time when you're 3 blocks from home and things are closing in. Mistake number 3, ignoring backup options. Your splitting maul is perfect until the handle cracks. Your railroad pick is lethal until the point bends. Your pry bar is ideal until you lose it climbing through a window. Single point failure is a death sentence. You need redundancy. You need a backup tool. You need to understand that the primary weapon is the one in your hands until it isn't, and then your backup better be within reach. The fix is simple. Carry 2 tools minimum. 1 primary, 1 backup. A splitting maul with a pry bar on your belt. A railroad pick with a smaller crowbar in your pack. Redundancy isn't paranoia. It's acknowledging that tools fail, situations change, and your perfect loadout becomes garbage the moment circumstances shift. Mistake number 4, fighting when you should be moving. Every zombie you kill is a zombie you spent energy on. Every swing is calories burned. Every engagement is risk accumulated. Here's what most people don't realize. Metalworking tools are heavy enough that fatigue sets in faster than you think. After 50 swings, your form degrades. After 100 swings, you're sloppy. After 200 swings, you're dying. The fix is tactical discipline. You fight when cornered. You fight when protecting others. You fight when the alternative is death. Every other scenario you move, you avoid, you bypass. That post maul is for choke points and last stands, not for playing zombie slayer when there's an open route to safety. Mistake number 5, forgetting that tools are loud. A 16-pound maul hitting a skull sounds like a watermelon dropped from a roof. A railroad pick punching through bone sounds like a branch snapping. Every impact is a dinner bell announcing your location to every threat within earshot. In an environment where noise equals attention and attention equals danger, your perfect weapon is also a tactical liability. The fix is understanding stealth economics. If you're in a high-density area, if you're trying to move undetected, if your survival depends on not being noticed, metalworking tools are not the answer. They're the emergency option when stealth has already failed. You don't start with the maul, you end with it. Let's be brutally honest about the survival math. If you're in a scenario where metalworking tools are your primary weapons, you're looking at short-term dominance with long-term challenges. These tools will absolutely devastate individual threats. They'll control choke points, they'll defend positions, but they won't solve the fundamental problems: food scarcity, water access, medical needs, long-term sustainability. They buy you time. They don't buy you victory. In an urban environment with slow movers and moderate density, a metalworking tool gives you maybe a 7 out of 10 survival rating for the first week. You can defend your home, you can clear your block, you can control your immediate area. But by week 2, when supplies run low and you need to move, that tool becomes a burden. Your rating drops to 5 out of 10. By month 1, when organized groups are scavenging and resources are contested, you're at 3 out of 10 unless you've transitioned to a community with division of labor. In a rural environment with scattered threats, the math improves. You're looking at 8 out of 10 for the first month because you can defend your property with tools that never run dry. But isolation is its own threat. Medical emergencies, injuries, the slow grind of subsistence living with tools that weren't designed for farming or food production. Long-term survival in rural isolation is grim. There's no sugarcoating it. The practical advice is simple. You start with metalworking tools because they're available, durable, and effective. You use them to secure a position, gather resources, and buy time to plan, but you don't stop there. You transition, you adapt, you find allies. You build systems. The maul is your day one solution, it's not your year one strategy. All right, your turn. If you had to choose one metalworking tool and that's it, no backup, no alternatives, which one are you taking? Are you going heavy and defensive with the post maul, or mobile and versatile with the pry bar? How many swings do you think you're good for before exhaustion sets in? 50? 100? Be honest. No plot armor, just honest assessment. And here's the real question. When things get desperate and your perfect tool is 10 feet away and you're facing an immediate threat, what's your empty-handed plan? Because tools fail, situations change. The survivor isn't the one with the best weapon. It's the one with the best backup plan. Drop your loadout strategy in the comments. Tell me which tool you're betting on and why. If you're here for tactical analysis that respects your intelligence and skips the fantasy, subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're building a library of reality-based survival strategy that assumes you're smart enough to handle the truth. Stay sharp, stay mobile. And remember, the best weapon is the one you can carry, swing, and still have energy left to run when swinging stops being the answer.